This is Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque. 17 years on air and online, helping you succeed in buying, selling, and investing in property. The best real estate strategies out there, just for you.
Welcome to Real Estate This Week. Hi again, I'm Stephen Gasque, and I'm so glad you're here as we look at a surge in short sales, an alarming development as more homeowners can't pay their mortgage and have to sell their homes at a loss. Today, we'll explain why the surge is happening and how to get the help you need if you're having trouble making your mortgage payments. Joining us now is Nishad Khan, board-certified real estate attorney with Nishad Khan Law in Orlando, Florida. Nishad is also a broker, a speaker, and faculty member who teaches at the Orlando Regional Realtor Association. Nishad, welcome to Real Estate This Week.
Thank you for having me, Stephen. Excited to be here.
I am so glad you're with us. And so, Nishad, I think it's fair to say that most Americans would think that the days of foreclosures and short sales are way behind us, back in the past, in the 2008 era. But in a conversation I had recently with you, you told me they're back. Nishad, what's going on here?
Well, Stephen, they are back in the conversation, but I do want to be precise. This is not 2008 all over again. What is rising is the foreclosure activity and homeowner distress in certain markets. Short sales are becoming relevant again for a smaller group of owners who do not have enough net equity to sell conventionally. The latest numbers are a real warning light. In the first half of 2026, 227,548 U.S. properties had a foreclosure filing, which is up 21% from the same period in 2025. Florida, where I live, had the highest state of foreclosure rate, 27,494 properties, or roughly 1 out of every 373 housing units. And that was about a 33% increase from the prior year. At the same time, we shouldn't use the crisis language. Even after foreclosure activity increased in 2025, filings were still 87% below the 2010 peak. This is not a broad housing collapse, Stephen. It's a growing financial problem for a meaningful number of families.
Oh, that's good to know. Good to know that it's not a wave, but it is, in fact, happening. I saw one statistic that said that short sales had increased by 63% year over year. But again, it's not millions, but still, that's a big increase.
Yes, it is. And I think what pushes a household into distress today may be a job or income interruption, higher insurance or escrow payments, taxes, association charges, or special assessments, or even medical or family events. Sometimes simply buying recently without a large equity cushion can also push you into a short sale. So a homeowner can have a good mortgage rate and still become unable to carry the total cost of the home.
And again, in one of our conversations, Nishad, you relayed a conversation that you had with some judges in your area, and you asked them, are short sales really a thing now? And they told you what?
Well, I'm hearing from judges that foreclosure calendars are becoming more active again. This is anecdotal, but it is consistent with the statewide and national data.
Interesting. So, Nishad, if someone really is in trouble and they cannot pay their mortgage, let's give them a hand here by looking at their options. First of all, if they have equity in the home, they could just sell it, correct?
Generally, yes. A conventional sale is usually the cleanest option because the seller controls the price, timing, and terms without asking a lender to accept less than the debt. But the key phrase is net equity. Equity is not the online estimate minus the mortgage balance. We have to subtract brokerage charges, taxes, title, and closing expenses, or other liens and judgments, and any second mortgage or home equity line. For example, a homeowner may think there's $20,000 in equity, but the cost of selling may consume all of it. The first practical step is a realistic market analysis, early title and lien review, and a seller's net sheet. If the net is positive, use a normal sale. If the net is negative, then we evaluate loss mitigation options, including a short sale.
I see. I see. And it's been almost 20 years since the financial crisis, so maybe we should define a few terms here, including being underwater. Now, if you're listening to this and you don't know what that means, it means that say that your house is worth $250,000 and you have a mortgage of $220,000. Well, if your home loses value and drops all the way to $200,000, you owe more on the house than it's worth. You're underwater. And that's not really a problem if you can afford to make the payments. But if you cannot afford to make the payments, you can be in real trouble because you don't have any equity and you'll have to sell the house for less than the mortgage repayment would require. And so they need to look at their options, including forbearance and deed-in-lieu. Nishad, can you explain some of those options to our listeners?
Sure. A short sale is not automatically the best option. If the hardship is temporary and a sustainable modification can keep the family in the home, keeping the home may be better. I think the homeowner needs to first start with, do we want to keep the home or is keeping the home not an option? So if the hardship is permanent, the owner has no net equity, the payment is not sustainable, and there's not enough time to market and close the property, a short sale may be the best controlled exit. The real advantage, Stephen, is control and closure. The owner can market the property, choose from legitimate offers, plan a move, and potentially avoid a completed foreclosure. Once the sale closes, the monthly delinquency stops growing and the property problem is resolved. But I would never promise that the credit score impact will be small. The missed payments do cause substantial damage before the short sale closes, and the account may be reported as settled for less than the full amount. The credit advantage, if there is one, depends on the borrower's entire file and the future loan program. Most importantly, the short sale does not automatically erase the unpaid balance, Steve. The approval letter must be reviewed for a release of the lien and a clear waiver of any deficiency or personal liability. Those are not the same thing. The lender may also request a cash contribution or promissory note. Nothing should be assumed.
I see. And looking at some of the other options really quickly, tell us about forbearance. What exactly is that, Nishad?
A forbearance is really temporary relief. The lender will take some of the payments and put them in future months or perhaps in the back of the loan. So it doesn't really provide permanent release. I think a forbearance is a good option if someone is dealing with temporary job loss or maybe a medical issue that's going to take away their ability to pay the mortgage for the next few months.
And another one we hear about is deed-in-lieu. What's that?
So a deed-in-lieu, Stephen, is when you give the property back to the lender. This is especially useful if the lender is refusing to accept a price that's lower than the mortgage balance that needs to be paid off. The problems with deed-in-lieu is the lender will expect the property to be free and clear. That means it's the homeowner's responsibility to take care of any liens, judgments, or second mortgages on the property.
And of course, deed-in-lieu really means deed in lieu of foreclosure. And very quickly, tell us what exactly is foreclosure, Nishad.
Sure. Foreclosure, and this is different in every state because this is a process that's governed by state laws, is the process of when a lender is attempting to take back the property in order to satisfy the debt. Some places this happens very quickly, and these are called contract to deed states, whereas other states that require judicial foreclosures, this process can take as long as 6 months to a couple years.
And so, Nishad, if one of our listeners is experiencing this kind of trouble, what should be their first move? Should they be calling their lender and asking about options, or their real estate agent and asking the same sort of questions? What should someone do if they're in trouble?
Well, they should do both, and they should do it early. Do not make those calls one at a time while the calendar runs. If possible, they want to start before they miss the first payment. So you should call the mortgage servicer's loss mitigation department, explain whether the hardship is temporary or permanent, and ask for every available retention and exit option, request the complete application, and write down every deadline and reference number. They should also call a realtor who has actually handled short sales, not someone learning on the homeowner's file. The realtor should prepare a realistic market analysis and coordinate on early title and lien review and net sheet. And they should use the right professional for the right risk: a HUD approved housing counselor for free loss mitigation help, an attorney if there is a foreclosure or lawsuit or deficiency issue, and also a CPA or a tax advisor before relying on any debt forgiveness exclusion. If the homeowner has already been served with foreclosure papers or an auction has been scheduled, legal advice moves to the front of the line. A listing agreement, purchase contract, or short sale application does not automatically stop the lawsuit or cancel the sale date.
And we should caution people that if you're in trouble, the worst thing you can do is nothing.
That's correct. Yeah, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is sticking your head in the sand. And I get it. This is a very emotional, sometimes stressful time of your life when you can't pay a mortgage payment. But that's okay. These things happen and there are options available. So, dealing with this head on, talking to the right professionals, talking to the lender is the first and the best step that you can make.
And you know, a few minutes ago, Nishad, you mentioned real estate agents. And you said get a real estate agent who really understands short sales and foreclosures and all the options. Now tell me, if a real estate agent is listening to this right now, where do they turn to learn all that?
Well, first, NAR, as well as a lot of the local boards, offer great education on how to handle short sales. These instructors are experienced, they've done it before, so that's where I would start is educate yourself on what the process entails. If they've never done one before, then work with a title company, an attorney, or even another broker who may have done short sales before in the past. That'll give them a good idea of what to expect.
I see. And will a person who's going through a short sale have about the same time frame as if they were doing a traditional sale, or does it happen faster or slower? What about that, Nishad?
Well, for realtors as well as the homeowner, the first point is that a short sale is not a normal listing with extra paperwork. It is a deadline-driven loss mitigation transaction running beside a possible foreclosure case. So there is going to take time to do a short sale. In fact, a lot of the buyer's timelines, such as the inspection period, the loan approval period, and other contingencies that they have to satisfy, do not start until the lender has approved the short sale and the borrower has accepted the terms of that approval. So that may take up to 90 days. In the meantime, the realtors have to keep the buyers patient, keep the lender up to date, and make sure they keep an eye on the ball as to where the short sale is going and how it's being managed. So this isn't a normal listing. It's going to take longer. But the thing about a short sale, Stephen, it's a win-win-win for everyone. The realtors get their commissions and get paid. The lender gets the property sold so they don't have to deal with the distressed property. And most importantly, the homeowner gets out of a problem where they can't sell their house, and now they're able to sell their house. The lender has accepted less than the value that they're owed, and they can move on with their life.
Absolutely. And let's really underline that, because anyone who was around in 2008 remembers how tragic the housing market was for people who were underwater, people who couldn't afford their mortgages, and people who really got in trouble. But one thing we learned about that time is that now that it's, almost 20 years later, people bounce back. And if you're in trouble listening to this, you can bounce back too. You just need to know what to do.
That's correct, Stephen. A short sale of foreclosure is a serious financial event, but it's not a life sentence and it's not a moral judgment. People recover. The practical path back is to act early, tell the truth in the application, protect every deadline, obtain the important terms in writing, and rebuild 1 month at a time after the property is resolved.
Well, Nishad, I know it's a tough subject, but it's an important subject, and I'm really glad that you brought it to my attention, that you're seeing more short sales in Florida, and I imagine that same thing is happening in markets all over the United States. And I want to thank you for bringing it to our attention, and also for explaining what a short sale is and how to deal with it if you're having difficulty holding on to your house. Nishad, thank you.
Thank you for having me, Stephen. It's good to talk to you again.
You too, my friend. Nishad Khan, board certified real estate attorney with Nishad Khan Law in Orlando, Florida. Nishad is also a broker, a speaker, and a faculty member who teaches at the Orlando Regional Realtor Association. Next time on Real Estate This Week. Investing in real estate without becoming a landlord. No mortgage, no tenants, no keys. We'll show you how to make it happen. That's next on Real Estate This Week. And until then, I'm Stephen Gasque, and thank you for listening.
A brand new episode of Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque drops every weekend, everywhere. And you're invited to listen, subscribe, and follow us. Just look for Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque. The best real estate strategies out there, just for you.